Good morning. So I woke up and I went to bed late, and I'm like, why are you up so early? Right? But God will wake you up. And I just started thinking about something. I started thinking about the goodness of God, right? And I started thinking about, his promises. In him is yes and amen. And sometimes, right, we don't know his promises. We don't know how God is a strong tower. He's our fortress. He's our everything. I'm gonna sum it up with he's our everything, right? And we think because we are in church or we are in a place of worship, well, some people think that you got it all together. And I realized something, right? My walk with God, right, was constantly, I was falling and getting back up. And at one point, I had one foot in and one foot out. And I came to this moment where I just thought about, how far, you know, how far God had brought me from. I had came to a moment and a thought where I'm like, God, you have brought me this far. And sometimes, right, we look at, all the loud noise and we look at all this stuff. And I was like, God, when I had one foot in and one foot out, a lot of people made a lot of noise, right? And not saying it's like bad or whatever, but good noise, like, and I felt like crap because I'm like, yo, this ain't even God's best. Like, I'm not his best. But because I could dress it up and because I looked the part, it was like, for the moment, I felt like, okay, this ain't right. This is just not right, okay? Like when I leave church on Bible study, on church on Sunday, Bible study on Wednesday, most times when I would go home, I had a drink waiting for me. And, I would talk to God and I would tell him, God, I don't know when you're going to remove this taste, but it wasn't until, and I thought about this when I was confessing, some things to my aunt. It's not until you confess out of your mouth and tell him your weakness. Because we always try to pretend to make it until we fake it until we make it. That's why I said a long time ago, I don't want to fake it until I make it. But some things we have to fake until we make it, because I feel like if we don't fake it until we make it, then we don't make it, right? It's like the attempt of the fakeness allows you to fake the funk until you actually become what you are trying to become in God, right? But I thought about it, and I keep having these epiphanies about, the realization of my walk of when I stopped the thing, or when I said I was done, or when I said, God, this is too much for me, like, God, I can't handle it. But it's always started with a conversation and being a willing participant to give up the thing that I feel like is overtaking me more than my father is, right? And I was like, God, I was like thinking, I woke up, I'm like, God, because I feel, sometimes I find myself, telling people certain things, and I'm like, you may look at me like someone called me their angel and someone called me like a saint. And I'm like, man, I don't think the description of me being your angel, or this is me, right? Because when I look at certain things in my life, and just because you only see the one side, but you don't see the other. But then I thought about it. I said, God, you really have a way of showing, like covering your people. It's not until we show our butts or show whatever that you cover us. And even when we do something, you still cover us. And I'm like, God, because we be over here, I ain't gonna lie, my woman, I be throwing a tantrum, okay? Like, girl, you're 40 years old throwing a tantrum because you don't understand something that God is trying to get you to understand. And it's not until you realize, like, God, like, Dad, okay, all right, what are you trying to tell me? And it's not until God allows or puts someone in your life to question the thing that you think is okay with doing in Him, okay? Because we always say, God knows my heart. He knows my heart. He knows my intentions and all this and that, right? But the thing that we try to cover up, that thing that we try to do, and we know, and every time we do it, we get convicted of it. That thing right there. And there was times and places I was at, and I got convicted. I was like, God, I don't even know why I'm here. And one thing, when I was going, and when I'm still in my journey, but when I was in my journey, I was picking people that was a contradiction to me, because I always picked someone that was bad, because I knew that I didn't want to do the stuff. So I knew if I'm with somebody, and not bad, but like I always try to pick a protector because of what I've been through. And I just knew that they would protect me until they start, trying to abuse me. I've always wanted a man who was my protector. You know what I mean? I don't know. Something about a man that can protect you, and a man that can really, be there for you, not just in the bedroom. But when I realized, though, this is as a single person, right? And a person who was dealing with trauma, and when He's showing me, right? Because I'm having like these moments of like, God, I don't know why I did that, but you have to know why you did certain things so you won't do it again. And when the moment comes up, when you're faced with a decision to make, right? You got to be able to make the right decision in God. If you professing God and you saying, I am a believer, and for God I live and for God I die, but if what people see in front of you is not what you see when you're in your home, it has to add up, right? And sometimes we have all these chameleons, we have all these things, or I could be this place over here, and I was like, God, I just want to be the same. I just want to be, I don't know why I could be this way here, and then, you know what I mean? I don't know why, but I just need to be the same at some point, you know what I mean? And I realized, like, when I was picking relationships, I was picking relationships based off of my trauma. I was being a trauma binder, whereas though I wanted someone to protect me because a little girl was violated. I wanted someone to be the person to take care of me, right? But I felt like if I allow someone, because this happened, if I allow somebody to take care of me, then they will try to control me, right? So that was always a thing. Like, I was like, I don't want to be controlled. And then you got in the Bible, oh, you should submit to your husband, should submit to your husband, submit. That's always the thing that comes up, right? And it was like, I don't have a problem with submitting, but the moment that you don't do what you're supposed to do, and you think that you're going to tell me what to do when you're not doing the right thing. Like, I can't have a man that is broken and be a leader over me. Especially if that man says he knows God and loves God, but that's what we know God, but we don't have a relation. And that's what I had to learn, that some of us don't have a relationship with God. And I had to identify my relationship with God. And when I started, like, all these things is like, oh, this timeline is like, oh yeah, I remember this because this is when I first had a relationship with God. There was a moment where I'm like, I have one foot in and one foot out. And I'm like, God, I don't know how these moments in the pivotal, things are just coming up, because it's like, I never really thought about it. And I'm like, oh yeah, my relationship with God started here. Even though I was going to church and I had questions about church, and there was questions that I had about church that my dad would always, help me with, because I didn't understand people's actions, right? And then I looked at God, his church, because I looked at his people, and I'm like, yo, they're evil. I always thought church people was evil. But I was like, there's something that I have to get there, because God keeps leading me here. And then at the time, I would always see my pastor everywhere. And I'm like, and I literally was up against some decisions, because I was like, if I'm with a man, and I ain't gonna lie, I always was, I don't know, for some reason I attracted Muslims. Like, I don't know, my baby father was a Muslim. And yeah, both of my baby fathers was a Muslim, except for my son's dad, which I thought that would be different or whatever. And it wasn't, because again, I'm looking for something. I'm looking to fill a void, and I'm looking to fill a void. And when I get it, it's like, that's not it. Like, so, that's not it. Like, you go through all the aesthetics of being in a relationship and whatever, but that person is not the person. But you already had a baby, you already did this, you already had that, right? And I realized, I'm like, I don't think this is it. And I realized something. If we listen, God shows us that we're not supposed to be with certain people, but we be trying to hold on, because look, it might be something, oh, they need me, or if they don't have me, they gonna kill themselves. Like, it be like some crazy stuff that you be really battling with, but you don't say nothing. And that's where we get stuck. We don't say anything to anybody because we don't think that they understand. We always, as a trauma person, we don't use our voice because we don't think that the other person or any people will understand. And 9 times out of 10, they don't, because they never experienced it. And when you're in trauma, right, you need someone to validate your feelings where you are. Right or wrong, you need to be validated where you are. Yes, this may have happened to you, but that is not the end game for your life. Okay? So I'm telling you, as a believer to one believer, because we get stuck in all this religion and all this stuff. I love God, right? And I believe that his son, Jesus Christ, died on the cross for my sins and my iniquities and all these things, right? But it took me a while to realize that when God created man, and I hear this all the time because it's my bishop's favorite, scriptures and Genesis and all this stuff. And I read Genesis, but I had to realize when God made man in his own image, that when he was done, he said, and it was good, right? So that means when he made us with a word, and the word is in us, right? Everything that he spoke over us is in us, right? It's already in us. It's already in us. Like, my best friend told me a dream, and I'm like, wow, she confirmed something that I was thinking about herself, but God used her in the dream. You know what I mean? But whatever God had put in us and whatever we're trying to do, it's already in us. It's in us. It's in us already. And sometimes when we don't know who we are and whose we are, we try to reach outside of ourselves to feel something that's already there. And I was like, it's already done. God already died for your sins. He knew when he went to the cross that there was going to be some temptation. He knew that we couldn't walk perfect like him. That's why he walked the earth for us. Because I remember reading in the Old Testament, if you was in the presence of God, and if you were unclean and they had to do all these sacrifices and all that just to be in the presence of God, and you trying to tell me when Jesus died on the cross for my sins and everything that he is in me, the Holy Spirit is here. So that means, people, I'm just saying, if you take God into, the Holy Spirit is with you. God is with us everywhere we go, even when you don't want him to be with us, because he died so he could be with us. And he said, if you made your bed in hell, and that's my favorite scripture, if you made your bed in hell, that means God is a rider. He's a rider, baby. Like, he will ride with you till the wheels fall off, okay? Until the expected end. He said if you make your bed in hell, that he's going to be right there with you. But why do we want to make our bed in hell when we can make it, in a place that he desired for us to make it there? If you take God in a bar, like when you go into a bar, you're taking God. I knew that when I went into those bars with my ex, and I always felt uncomfortable, but I was there because I was trying to support my man. If you realize, when we do something, it'd be out of our characteristics. I'm telling you. And I had to come to a place where I'm like, God, I cannot go into these places with this man because I am going to end up doing something, and then, it ain't going to be good for me. I said, I'm already an alcoholic, and I would never admit that I was, but I love drinking, okay? And I was like, I'm already drinking, and then if I keep allowing a man to lead me somewhere, again, 1 foot in and 1 foot out, because Sunday, Bible study, I'm at Bible study, I'm at church, but then after church, Monday or whatever, I'm on this other journey, get delivered on Sunday, and back to the races on a Monday, okay? Because I'm trying to fill a void in somebody else's life that they don't even know what they're feeling. And it's not until you identify the thing that's keeping you tossing and turning, the thing that we don't want to really touch, that thing that we don't really want to face, that thing that we keep putting it on the back burner, like, oh yeah, that's not doing nothing. But every time something comes up, it's like, something is wrong, but you just don't want to face that thing right there. And God keeps bringing it to your attention, but you keep saying, oh, it can't be me. That ain't me. That ain't me. That ain't me. That ain't me. And then God, every situation leads back to that thing that you keep protecting. I'm just saying. But yeah, I had to come to a point in a place. And, this journey still goes, because there's some things that God wants out of us, and he wants out of us what he put in us, right? He wants the fruit of that thing that he put in us. And some of us are still trying to figure it out. And some of us are like, I'm not good enough. And some of us are like, oh, I'm not worthy enough. And some of us are intimidated by certain things. And it's like, or we're trying to compete and compare and all this extra stuff, right? And it's like, if we realize, right, he got us all here for a reason. Everybody is connected to what he wants. We don't have to compete. We don't have to compare. We don't have to talk down on nobody. We don't have to do none of those things, but we do it because we feel like it's going to make us look better. And it doesn't, because in the sight of God and God, he looks at us as one. We're us, the church. Like, we're just one, right? Even when I was explaining to somebody, I said, look, when the world has, measurements on sin, God don't. A sin to God is a sin. If you kill, is the same measurement as if you stole, or if you committed adultery, or if you did this. He has no measurement because he died for us. But the world has measurement on what you do. And it always brings me back to this, because I've always loved the fact that he said we live in the world, but we don't live of it. And some of us as believers are living in the world and we're living of it. And, I was of it because, man, I had my fair share. I was like, I was of it. Because I did some stuff. I'm just saying. And, and if God would have kept covering me, and I probably still would be doing it, but there was a moment where I was like talking to God, and I'm like, I thank you for covering me. But I always felt like if I didn't stop, that he was going to expose me. And I was like, I would always say, I got to get this together. But it wasn't, I don't know, but it was like the things was like the internal thing, and then it became an outer thing. But it was an internal thing. It was like a mind shift. It was like, once you make up your mind, then you could start doing it. It's hard because it's a challenge. You're so used to doing this over here, and now you're trying to move over here. And everything has to align with this over here when you're used to doing this over here. And people think that you're acting different. You're weird, and all this stuff, because they're so used to this person and not the person that you're becoming, or the person that God has created you to be. But you was putting that person on standby because you wanted to fit in, and you wanted to be, in the world, and you wanted to be accepted by the people that you thought loved you, but they only loved your hand. You know what I mean? So I had to learn. I had to learn. We all got to learn. We all have a journey. And the good thing about the journey, right? The one thing I love about this journey and God is when I look back over my life and I think about all the good things that God has done for me and all the times that he kept me. Because I was thinking about this, right? There was moments where I wanted to kill myself. And I was there, but I wasn't there. And I have videos. I have a video in my phone where I was like, making this video, and I was like, the pain was like just so great. And I was just like, I don't know. I'm like, I got everything that I thought that I wanted. You know what I mean? Money wasn't an issue. Whatever I wanted, I got it, right? But I was still struggling internally. And I don't know how. I was explaining to somebody, I said, I don't know how I got from point A to B, but I know there was a prayer. It had to be prayers of the righteous, because I contemplated it. I was like, I don't think my kids need me. And I was like, they got my parents. And, I got life. I was like, I got a life insurance policy. They'll be good. Like, they'll be set. You feel me, for a little bit. And I just remember, maybe that was a weekend or Friday or Saturday. And I remember, after feeling like I did, and I don't know why, what triggered me to feel like I didn't belong into this world. I didn't belong. And, sometimes you can, and I was even going to conferences, and I was going to certain places, and, I was here, but I just felt like I didn't belong. So I contemplated, and I don't know why God brought this up to me, but there was like 3 pivotal moments of my life where if somebody, and I believe it was prayers or something, where I just didn't want to live. And one time is when I was pregnant with my oldest daughter. I just didn't understand. And I remember, like, not eating, and, I remember, trying to take pills or whatever, and it didn't even work. I'm like, I don't even know what I took either, but it didn't even work. But when I was younger, as a teenager, I was contemplating, because I just didn't understand, like, it's 1999, the world's going to end. How did I get pregnant? Like, all this stuff is going through my mind. And then there was another moment where I was literally working for Verizon, a sales rep, and I thought the money would help me or make me feel like something, and it really didn't. So it's like, at one point you just like, what's next? Like, you do all these things, and then it's like you don't get a fulfillment for it. And it was another time, and I felt like I was running. Every time it was like me running from myself. And I don't know how, like, I went from this moment to that moment. But I was like, it was nobody but God. And, at one point I just existed. At one point, even though you see me, you this or you that, like, every word played in my mind about what people said, what people did, or like anything. Like, every time I had a conversation, if I didn't say something, or, this or that, and I tussled and I struggled. I couldn't sleep at night. Like, it was a lot of stuff. Like, I was like, I don't understand how I'm in church all the time, and God, I can't sleep. And it wasn't until I start talking and confessing these things to God, like, until he started, like, helping me, because I thought that I could do it all by myself. Like, I'm independent. I must have to go through these things, because why am I going through this thing? But it was the fact of, like, I wouldn't open my mouth. I wouldn't say anything. I wouldn't talk it out. I wouldn't, because I felt like I had to, because I did these things, because I had a baby at a young age, because, having a baby with a grown man, you know what I mean? I held it in. I didn't want to get nobody in trouble. Like, all these things happen. And then when I would tell people, they would use it against me. So it was like, at one point, in time, I didn't talk about, anything, because I felt like if I said something, then it just gets brought back up in my face. And I had to realize, like, the enemy was trying to use my voice or how I felt against me. So, all that to say, and I just want to tell somebody, and I just want to encourage you today. You may feel like you don't belong in this world, right? And you may feel like you have nobody. And you may feel like this is it for me. I don't know. I don't see the light on the end of the tunnel. Because at one point, I didn't see the light at the end of the tunnel. And you may feel like what now? Like the decision that I made, what now? I'm here to tell you. As long as you have breath, and as long as you confess confess that the Lord is God over your life, and as long as you can put into words how you feel, and talk about it even when you sound crazy, because I promise you, up here was all wrapped up. It was all wrapped up here. It was all wrapped up. But the moment I started talking, because the enemy don't want you to talk. He don't want you to speak. Because he gonna tell you that nobody's gonna listen. Nobody cares. But can I tell you something? God will send the one who does care and who will listen and who will have an answer, because God sends blessings on 2 feet just for his people, his children, his believers. He sends a blessing on 2 feet. He sends a person with an answer to your problem to solve it. Okay? And I want you, even if you have to journal it and talk to God, because he hears you. He hears everything. He's there. He's with us. He's been there. Like, it's certain moments where I realize that God has always been here. In moments, man, even when, people violated me, it could have, and I think about this, it could have went another way. It could have went another way when I started self-sabotaging, when I started, like just not caring and, just throwing myself to the wolves. Man, because I didn't care about me. I didn't love me. And I didn't think nobody else did. But even when people told me they loved me and hugged me, I just felt like it was just, I couldn't trust them. But I'm telling you, one day, and I say this all the time, I woke up and I said, God, I trust you. Because I knew if it had not been for him, I wouldn't even be here. Because I was looking at the end. I ain't gonna lie, I wanted it to be the end. But I realized every day I got up and I had breath in my body. And then I could move my limbs. I could speak. There was one time where I didn't say anything. And I can think on my own. And I start looking around and start taking inventory over my life and all the things that he's done for me and all the people that he put in my way. And I had to go back and apologize to some people that I even pushed away. And I had to go back and ask for forgiveness because I didn't understand the people that God was putting in my life that I was pushing away. And I felt bad because I'm like, how could these people that God put in my life love me unconditionally when I couldn't even love myself, okay? Because my actions and and the things that I'd done was showing that I didn't even love Tay Tay. But God still seemed fit to put people that love me anyway. And I think about that now because I'm like, God, your girl was rebellious. Your girl was this and your girl was that. But I can say now, I just want to live for God. I do. And the decisions that I had to make that I thought was so hard back when, you know what I mean? I thought it was so hard to live without certain people and live without certain things and, all these things. And then I came up to a place where I figured out that I was angry. And I had to get that off my heart because God was showing me that you're angry. And he was putting people in my life, in my path, to show me that I was angry. But I was looking at them like, something's wrong with you. But he was trying to tell me, Shantae, daughter, you're angry. But I kept looking over it. And it wasn't until one day I figured out, girl, you're angry. And I had to confess it because I was holding it on into a pocket in my heart that was making me curse. So now I identified the issue and the problem, and now I could start working on it. When I was drinking, I had to identify that I was hurt. But the hurt wasn't from now. It was from something that happened to me as a kid. And I still remember that I was trying to protect somebody, which was me, that God already protected. So I just want to tell you, if you want to grow, you got to face it head on with God, because God is with us. Again, I talked about that. He's with us. He said, wherever you lay your bed, I will be right there with you. But just also remember, when God created you, he created you in his image. And he said, and it was good, right? So it's like, you're good. God looked at you as something precious. He looked at you. When he look at you, he see himself. He see his creation. He see what we can't see. But he's trying to get us to see what we can't see. But we got all these blockage and all these boundaries, and we keep putting all these obstacles. We keep picking up all these spirits. We keep picking up all these things, and it's not denying us. It's just delaying us. It's a time and place when you just get sick and tired of being sick and tired. Being sick and tired when the words are coming, but they're not penetrating. But you just get tired of being sick and tired of being sick and tired. Who is sick and tired of being sick and tired? I know I'm sick and tired of being sick and tired of the mediocrity of what is like. It's like, why do we settle if God is more? Yeah, let that sink in. Let it sink in. But yeah, this is real talk. I'm sorry to speak. I'm sorry to hold you. But look, we all, as believers, we all go through something. We're all like there to get delivered from something that we picked up along the way. And we're just trying to figure it out too. Not that we're perfect, because we're not perfect. We're just made in God's image of God. And we made a conscious decision that we was going to do more than just exist. We were going to be here for God. We decided that, for God we live and for God I die. We decided that we wanted more in Him. We decided that we wanted His desires and not just our desires, because our desires, I desired stuff that it was not good for me. It wasn't good at all. But I'm just here to tell you that this is real talk, and real talk from the heart, man. This is stuff from my heart. And I just want to tell you I love you. And I just want to tell you we in this together. We are. I know it may not look like little old Tay went through all this stuff. And I know God covers me. And I can tell you today that if I never experienced what I experienced in my life, I don't know if I would be here. Like, I don't know if I never had these run-ins. Like, I don't know where I would be. I really don't. If it had not been for God, I don't know where. And I just be like, God, I don't know, but I just know I'm here. Should I be here? Yes, because God allowed me to. But man, if you really knew me, you would know that Shantae didn't like herself. And it was evident because of the people that I was sleeping with and the people that I brought into my life, because I was trying to feel something. But I'm telling you, man, when you start feeling that void with God, it's going to feel awkward at first, because you like, Dad, God, where are you? But, man, your peace that surpasses all understanding is going to be worth it. You hear me? So, you have a good morning. Happy Monday, and live on purpose. Bye.